Who dares wins, but in New Zealand. Let's go.
Staying awake when you've been awake pretty much for 5 or 6 days is the most difficult thing. It's the body's trying to shut you down.
I've never been so crippled in my life as trying to walk in bricks, frozen bricks, with wet socks and feet that resembled marshmallows.
And I can recall being so tired that I saw some dairy cows that went past and they were upside down, walking upside down.
Yeah, you start seeing things. I've been there. I used to see little cartoons. I think I saw something in the sky. And you just have to fight it. I'd smack myself, put water on myself, do these kind of things to stay awake, because in this kind of training scenario now, you're not getting the caffeine or nicotine or whatever keeps you fired up. It makes it worse for sure.
There's only one way to join the New Zealand Special Air Service: to pass the arduous 10-day selection course.
Not everyone passes, nor should everyone pass. Would not have the caliber of the soldiers that could handle the types of missions or tasks that they're expected to do.
By day 8, the exhaustive search for the right recruits has meant that only 7 of the original 50 volunteers remain. If being starved and kept awake for a week wasn't already enough to break their spirits, then the next task surely will.
Now you figure that's a 76% attrition rate, all right, in 8 days. Now, these guys already came prepared, right? They said there was a physical and mental selection first. They're already in the regular military, so they should know better, right? But they still have the same attrition after all of that screening process.
In addition to their combat load, they must carry a full 20-litre jerry can through harsh swampland for 24 hours.
It's always been talked up as a nemesis and the thing that's going to exert most pain on your body, and it is the hardest.
Exercise von Temsky. Yeah, this is our opportunity to weed out the dreamers from those who are going to carry on.
Without deviating from their set course, they must push through whatever obstacle is in their path.
I've done this with logs before and ammo cans, the same idea. You try every which way to get this weight squared away. Try in one arm, the other arm, against your chest. Thought about tying it to your pack. You try everything, and nothing really works, but it keeps you busy because that jerry can, we'll call it 5 gallons at 8 pounds a gallon, 40 pounds. You don't think it's much till you just keep pumping it, and then you start switching hands. It's never easy.
Once von Temsky is underway, there's only one way out: the finish.
Soldiers don't have to reach any destination. When it's time to stop, the activity will stop.
And that's the mind game, right? When it's time to stop, the activity will stop. It may be for some people 3 miles. It may be 10. It may be 1. You just don't know. These guys can tell, the instructors, when somebody's spent, when they're just weak, and when they can't push them any further, because there's a line you can push people, and you can push them past it, but you got to bring them back, right? You got to build their confidence. You can't totally break them in this. But you want to take them right to the breaking point and stop. And these guys are pretty familiar with it, having done it themselves.
Overloaded with little room to maneuver, it's a slow and painful trudge forward.
It's just about putting one foot in front of the other, dogged determination to get through to the other end.
That's a lot of weight, especially when you start carrying the 2, because it requires more balance. And you've got your pack on your back, and you've got a rifle slung as well.
The rifle becomes your nemesis because it maybe 7.5, 8 pounds with a full loadout with rounds in the magazine. The sling, it starts whacking you. There's no easy way to carry any of this stuff. What have you guys experienced with this? The rifle was a problem for me because I couldn't get it situated right. I'm trying to sling it across my body, on my shoulder, and carrying something like an ammo can, in this case a jerry can. None of it's easy.
Again, it's another 40 kilos when you're talking about weight.
But for dog-tired bodies, trying to put one blistered foot in front of another is agony.
That's where it hurt. It really started to hurt.
Hour after relentless hour, the task remains the same.
it was cold.
2 minutes.
It plays havoc when you stop. It's generally when you cramp up, so the best thing is to keep going.
Yeah, I said that earlier. When you stop, it's the worst. Everything cramps up, swells up, blood flow lessens. It's a problem when you stop, and you want to. And if you try to catch some Z's in something like this, it's a no-go.
Break offers little comfort as cold, wet clothes add extra weight and boots rub against raw blisters.
My feet went soft, and it was just a matter of letting them rot away at that time and sort it out later.
Von Tempsky.
Do they really want to be there?
If the volunteers try to sneak in extra rest breaks, the staff push even harder.
Hurry up, doesn't take that long to sort of here.
Knowing SAS troopers have endured far worse during actual missions.
And they know where you're going to try to do it. They've been through enough classes. They've seen enough people try to cheat. They know where they want to cheat. So these guys are not sleep deprived. They're ready to go, and they know exactly where these guys are going to try to sneak one in.
I don't know what the packs weighed, but they weighed more than we did. Probably 1.5 times what each individual weighed. Our webbing, packs, sleeping gear. So it was out of control. I mean, we'd have to get lifted up on our feet by 2 people.
Used to patrolling long distances in training, in East Timor, the terrain and pack weight proved exhausting.
We could only walk for about 15-20 minutes in about 35-40 degree heat.
You figure if you're in a place with no water, you can't even purify it with an iodine tablet. So that's what he's talking about. You got to tote the water. Without logistics support to drop water in for you, you got to have it. There's no getting around it, right? If you're in the jungle, you could probably purify water. But in East Timor, you could see it was a problem.
With no water, before we'd have to have a break.
It's mental and physical toughness which drives Special Forces soldiers beyond the capabilities of most. For 14 hours, those left have carried close to their own body weight through New Zealand's toughest terrain.
It just blew my mind. I said, "You've got to be joking me, mate." He said, "No, we've got another 10 hours to go."
This moment is make or break in Von Tempsky.
It's a big psychological barrier. You just got to get inside yourself and just keep pushing on.
Somehow, all 7 find the willpower to carry on.
At this point, you're a walking zombie, right? And if everybody's moving, it makes it a lot easier. If you get any complainers in the bunch, it falls apart. But typically, you're not going to have any complainers because people are so damn tired, it just doesn't come up, right? If you guys ever experienced this, whether it's a long drive or military training, put that in the comments.
He has to have willpower, but he has to have that. He has to believe in what he's doing and have that determination, which comes from an absolute belief in your own ability to achieve and to keep going under any circumstances. If he's got that, then he's got that different thing.
It's not the fear of being on or the unknown so much about the selection course, but it's that nagging fear that you might not make it.
There were some very bad moments when you wanted to pull out.
I thought I could finish the 10 days all right. Well, my feet were like plates of meat, I suppose, you know.
Now, question for you guys. So a lot of selections do it a month in, where they'll do this kind of hell 10 days, we'll call it. I think the way the New Zealand SAS is doing it makes a lot of sense. You come in prepared. We're going to work you for 10 days. And if you make that, then we'll train you. We're not going to bother with PT. We're not going to bother. You're going to make the standard to go forward to the next evolution. If you make it, then we'll get into some training down the road, and we'll get into jumping out of planes and diving, things like that. What do you guys think?
9 days ago, 50 men gathered at the secret location in a personal quest for selection into the New Zealand SAS. Only 7 remain.
Physically, they are pretty much destroyed, although it's imposed and it's monitored.
Malnourished, vitamin deficient, it's their feet which suffer most.
Lance them and tape them. Try and control them best you can. Bottom line, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, no one's going to die from lack of food here, right? So you need the water. But the feet, some people's feet swell so bad, and some people get cellulitis so quickly. Now it's cold, that helps. If it was warm, infection sets in a lot faster. So having it cooler is a definite benefit, for the feet at least.
They're given their first decent feed in days.
I mean, I lost about 10, 12 kgs probably. Something horrendous.
I've never been so hungry in my life.
You know, the problem with that, you're so hungry, and if you eat it so fast, it gets in your stomach and you feel sick. If any of you guys ever experienced that, where you haven't eaten in days, and you get a bunch of food and you're starving, and if you don't slow down, you'll eat it and you'll end up throwing up because your body's just, the stomach shrunk. You can't eat that much, but your brain's telling you, eat it as soon as possible because you may not get it again.
Seriously.
This exercise is designed to test their will to the maximum. Can they continue to function to SAS standard? They must somehow find hidden reserves if they are to stand any chance of completing the 60 Ks.
Why does a rugby player want to be an All Black? It's the same sort of thing. For me, it was about being the best of the best.
You do a start point, and it's like on your marks, get set, go. You know.
And that's a long way when you're fresh, right? So 60 kilometers when you're fresh with a big pack and some hills involved is a lot. When your feet are wrecked, you're exhausted. It is a long way, but the only good factor is here, you're so tired, you look up and 30 minutes has gone by when you're walking, when you're in that state of delirium.
You're away.
One at a time, they begin their lonely march. Push hard despite their frailty.
Because you're not as quick as you were on the first day. And you're quite a few kilos lighter.
By now, they've passed the point of no return as their bodies start to shut down.
And, you know, the muscles are shot at this point, right? So now all the joints are taking the brunt of the punishment. So the cartilage gets swollen, the hips start hurting, the low back, because your muscles are so fatigued, they're not supporting the joints anymore. That's why you cannot go to these kind of things broken.
When do I stop for a 5-minute break? Do I stop for a 5-minute break? Because if you stop, then you seize up.
With his legs cruelly failing him at the last hurdle.
Self-achievement. In this particular instance, you've got nobody pushing you. You want to be there.
Now, they're going to have to go through this in training further, of course. In real life, maybe. But what this tells the SAS is that these guys are worth putting the time into. They can push it if they have to. Because they're not going to do this type of thing every day. But if they had to, they could, right?
With 20 kilometers left, each man keeps going on pure willpower.
It started to get dark and it started to hallucinate. They started to see things moving.
And this is where people get tempted, just I'll catch 5-10 minutes sleep. And if you do catch it, it's not 5 or 10. The staff will definitely be looking. They probably got night vision goggles on. And when you stop, it gets even worse. You don't want to get back up. And sometimes your legs will cramp so bad you won't be getting back up without some sheer brute force to get your butt off the ground.
And then you sort of go into a zone. You just look at the stars.
All sense of time is lost, and fearing they're falling behind, frustration sets in.
You get to a checkpoint, you think, this must be the last checkpoint. You keep going, and you just keep going, and that kept on happening.
And it's like kids, yeah. Are we there yet, Dad? Are we there yet? So tired, all they're thinking about is this is the last checkpoint. Nope. You go, and you go another half hour, and you look up, and you're thinking, it's got to be here. Nope. Now, it may seem like 30 checkpoints. It's been 3. It's just, you're so mentally exhausted, there's no way around it.
Out of blackness, a small glowing light appears. This is the end of selection.
I didn't realise what you'd achieved up to then. I think the body and the brain was sort of like, just shut down mode.
One by one, the remaining volunteers reached the last checkpoint, barely able to stand.
It didn't really cross my mind then. I just thought I'd finished and sweet.
It really is. To know that you can just keep going and going till your heart stops.
With the last men in, their selection hell is at an end.
Sat down. Within a couple of minutes my nose started to bleed. My feet were blistered. I knew I'd gone quite a long way. It was further than I'd ever gone before.
After 10 days of selection, the ambitions of 50 have become the realisation for just 6 exhausted men who have earned the right to train for the New Zealand SAS.
If you ask anybody who's been in the unit what their proudest moment was, I think it would be when the selection panel says, "You're in."
G'day, Private. Please take a seat. Firstly, congratulations. You've done a tremendous effort just to pass the selection course and get to the end of it. We are happy to select you and take you for...
You can imagine how proud these guys are. The next day they're probably so sore, but I'm sure they get a week of light duty of some type to heal up before they go on to the real training. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. For my current subscribers, I appreciate you. Thanks for watching.